run away with me. Lost souls in revelry, running wild and running free. Just two kids, you and me. And I say, hey, 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 living like we're renegades. Hey, 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 living like we're renegades.
Welcome, Renegades, Rebels, and Outlaws, to the Chong Show with Foxyheals, episode 9 here. The holiday episode here at the very end of the year. 1 year since we had our first episode. Let me be the first to say happy holidays, everybody. And it should be a fantastic show here today. We're going to be covering the return to Karazhan, our thoughts on Nostalrius, finally going to get around to giving our opinions on that. And of course, all the BlizzCon news. The best take, the only take you should concern yourself with when it comes to WoW media, right here on the Chong Show with Foxyheals. So let's get started here. Return to Karazhan. We promised that we would cover it, and here's my take on it. I'll go ahead and start off here. You know, I've enjoyed the patch so far. I haven't had the time to actually progress through the Karazhan dungeon, but from what I've heard and seen, the 5-man mini-raid is a fantastic and nostalgic way to go back and see that content or relive that content. You know, Foxy and I were out at Karazhan just the other night, and let me tell you, everybody, it was great to see one of the most legendary and iconic locations in the game bustling with life once again. There were Horde and Alliance players everywhere. They were tearing it up below at the entrance. It was pretty good time to be at Karazhan, although we made sure we kept our distance up in the air, not to land and, you know, get involved in that.
Really can't wait to get in there and get it done and say we've done it. Get a chance at that dragon, that mount. Looking forward to it. And it's, you know, I enjoyed myself while we're sitting there watching everybody go at it the other night. It was fun to see, you know, that area busy again. Usually I fly through there on the weekly mount run, and it's, you know, there's no one there except the occasional other raid grinder. It's good to see it again, you know, busy again. Makes it hard to get in there and do your weekly stuff, but, you know, whatever. It's fun. Makes it fun.
And we were out there scoping out a location for the playoffs. It was originally scheduled to be Karazhan, but now the playoffs have been moved, and by this time they will have taken place already, to Zul'Gurub. So we thought about Karazhan. We saw all the people there. We knew that the Horde were going to get involved, so we just decided, you know what, better to have it next door at Zul'Gurub. So, return to Karazhan, epic patch so far. As Foxy said, I'm looking forward to getting the guild involved in Karazhan, finally getting around to running that at some point here. Let's move on to Nostalrius. Now, for those of you who may not know, Nostalrius is a vanilla server that was started by about 3 people. The team grew to about 30 people, and basically it was a legit, authentic vanilla server with all the bells and whistles and all the glitches and all the positives and negatives of it. It was a vanilla server, and it became pretty popular for a private server. It got up to, I think they had 900,000 accounts, 800,000 accounts, 100,000 that were active, and the most they had on at one single time, 13,000 players. Now keep in mind the limit for any WoW server is about 3,000. So 10,000 more than that at one night. That was their record. Unbelievable. And I think we've been silent on this issue long enough. You know, at first I thought it was a tad over the line as far as being a flash in the pan, a fad. So it really wasn't worth discussing on the show. That was my opinion. I wanted to see it'll probably pass. Sure enough, Blizzard shut it down. But now they're bringing it back. So here's my take. Blizzard is a multi-billion-dollar company. They have to ensure that profits stay up for future expansions. Now, focusing any amount of resources on diverting a portion of the player base away from that model, away from current content, in my opinion, it just isn't practical for them. Now, I understand the desire to go back and play Vanilla WoW just as it was, and from what I've heard, these 30 or so volunteers did one hell of a job in that regard. I think, if anything, maybe Blizzard should invite this team to work for them and open up a vanilla server when WoW is at the end of its run, when maybe there's 500,000 to 2 million players left, and there's still a demand, there's still a market for that. But currently, with how successful Legion has been, I've always been a strong advocate for forward momentum, and I just don't see vanilla servers being a positive thing for the game at this time.
I'm going to agree and disagree with you on this one. I agree that they should hire these guys in, start up a vanilla server or whatever. But at the same time, I think they should go ahead and do it now and make it some give them a couple dead servers. Give them what they want. If they want vanilla servers and that's what they want, then give it to them. But at the same time, throw in some stipulations in there where a PvP cross server or something where they can be camped by 110s or I don't know, something like that. Give it a couple stipulations to where it does have a downside to playing just vanilla.
Now, Blizzard did, to your idea here, they did mull around the idea of having legacy servers where there wasn't an in-game shop, the level cap was at 60, you couldn't buy gear, so on and so forth. Essentially a harder difficulty for the game. But do you really think that the player base would still have the time or the desire beyond a week, maybe 2 weeks, to go back and play that content? I mean, Blizzard isn't dumb. Sure, they screwed up with Warlords of Draenor, but they know their audience. And I just think if there was if the market was there for that vanilla hardcore, 18 hours a day commitment, whether you're gearing or working on professions or whatever, or raiding 6 hours a night, I just I think they would have had it by now. They would have reverted back to that. But the current landscape of WoW is moving in a completely different direction. So I just don't see the current player base being, aside from maybe 200,000, 300,000, maybe a million that are just curious, staying with this style, this vanilla style. I think it would be a fad, and then you'd go down to 100,000. And as I said, I just don't think it's a good way for them to spend their resources.
Well, I think for this group that started this, there has to be something there. I mean, to make a private server where it's just vanilla isn't something you can do in a day. I mean, I wouldn't, not 100% on this, so don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it takes a bit of time to do this. And then it got, what was it, 13,000 players in one night. So, I mean, obviously there's something there. Whether or not this was before Legion or after Legion, I'm not sure. Maybe you can answer that one for me.
I know I started hearing about Nostalrius in August, right around the time that Legion launched. It was this year that it started to gain a lot of popularity. But I mean, let's be honest here. There's a bunch of people that want to go back and try it, and then there's a bunch of no-lifers that want to sit there and they want to, eat Doritos and drink Mountain Dew and raid 18 hours a day. That audience has died down. And as I said, most of those people that were able to do that are no longer able to do it. They've matured past it. So I trust in Blizzard, at least in the way that they know how to spend their resources. And if they've looked at it and they have decided we're not going to do legacy servers, we're not going to see legacy servers, and it's for the best of the community and the best of the game. That said, as I have previously stated, I think maybe at the end of WoW's run, we'll see some vanilla servers, but I think these people just need to get a new hobby, maybe get a life, get some fresh air and give up on this because it's not a hill that you want to die on. Nostalrius is going to be shut down again. There's no way it's going to remain active. It's illegal to do. It's illegal to play on it. It's against the terms of service. And I pretty much said all I need to say on it. But any final thoughts on Nostalrius? Any predictions for how you think this is going to go? Obviously, this new server they opened up is going to be shut down. But
I think Blizzard is going to, for the sake of fighting this and the sake of kind of hushing this up, I think Blizzard's going to give them a single live server and see how it goes from there. Couldn't hurt.
well, I think you and I are going to have to agree to disagree on that because I think it could hurt the player base in a big way. Let's say it's a success. Well, then you have the player base split and you have one server that is only bringing in sub money, and the bulk of Blizzard's profits, which comes from expansion sales, isn't going to come in anymore. So that's going to hurt the game. And I think that's the biggest reason Blizzard has delayed and delayed and delayed on this because it's a very iffy situation for them to be in. So I think it will hurt the player base if they add these vanilla servers and they're a success. If they're a failure, I agree with you completely. I think what the hell's the harm in it? Just add them and let players that want to raid 7 hours a night go at it. Whatever. They'll try it. My prediction, the players that go and do this will try it for a week, and then you'll have maybe 50 to 100,000 players. All the players that are currently active in Nostalrius. So we shall see what transpires here with Nostalrius. But finally, after all these months, I finally thought, you know what? Let's give our 2 cents on it. Let's give our take on. Well, Chuck's 2 cents. My opinion is more valuable than that. But let's give our opinion on this matter and go from there because it was time. This is becoming too big of an issue. I think every major WoW YouTuber has addressed it, and there you go. You have the Chong and Foxyheals opinions on Nostalrius. On to BlizzCon. The discussion here, BlizzCon 2016 was probably the most eventful BlizzCon yet without an expansion announcement, and we have quite a bit to discuss.
I agree. It was very eventful. I watched the first day and watched some of the costume contest. What's it called? Anyway, costume contest, and it was fun. I had fun watching it. Very interesting takes on some things, but I enjoyed myself. I usually do. So it was good.
I'll say something that may offend the nerd community here. I've already bashed the people that like vanilla servers, so I'll go one step further. Cosplay concerts are just glorified costume contests. I mean, let's be honest here. Cosplay. People treat it like a damn profession. But really, they're just dressing up like it's Halloween. I mean, so I like that. I think they should be called a costume contest because that's pretty much right on the money there. I did not watch any of it. I watched one panel, and that's the panel we're talking about today. I read a lot about it, but I read it on my breaks from work here on my phone, but didn't watch much besides the What's Next panel. And that is what we will be discussing here today. So let's jump right in. Blizzard laid out the rest of Legion for us all wrapped up with a bow as an early Christmas gift. It was fantastic. Really excited that we have an idea now of where they're headed this soon in the expansion. They got just ripped to shreds in Warlords, and rightfully so, about lack of communication, and they obviously didn't want to tell everybody, hey, we've given up on this expansion, we're just devoting all of our resources to Legion. But that's what happened. So here we have the complete opposite, and I think this is a fantastic move in the right direction for Blizzard. It just continues the march towards redemption for Blizzard following Warlords of Draenor. Now, they discussed having smaller patches between the larger ones, primarily these larger ones being 7.2 and 7.3. 7.2 we'll get to, and 7.3 we'll get to the names for these patches. The patch plan has been laid out extensively for us.
And you can't forget about those micro holidays to keep everyone busy in between.
You know, micro holidays sound interesting, and we'll see how they handle the execution. Always have been a supporter of more in-game content year-round, so we'll see how it goes. I heard, they're going to have stuff like the day Deathwing was defeated or whatever, the day Arthas was defeated, you'll have something going on in Stormwind. So we'll see. That'll be cool. 7.2 is really what has me excited. At long last, we'll get to face Killed Jaden in the Tomb of Sargeras. We kicked his ass at the Sunwell, and now, hopefully, we get to finish the job, at least here on Azeroth.
Right. New dungeons, new zones. Finish the job and kick his ass. Looking forward to it. Been a long time coming.
Now, another couple important things to note about 7.2 is that we'll be getting flying across the Broken Isles and class-specific mounts. Now, some classes get better-looking ones. Others, I think you'll be staying with your current favorites, specifically Hunters, Priests, Paladins. Blizzard apparently ran out of ideas when tackling your class mounts, so
yeah,
God help you.
I think they spent most of their time on their favorite, the Paladin, the Demon Hunter, and Druid, and then they ran out of coffee and just gave up on the rest of them.
See, I think Paladin's just a glorified pony with wings. I'm not a fan of Paladin. I think Death Knight looks fantastic. Demon Hunter looks fantastic. There's some of them that are just like, oh my goodness, I wish this was account wide on all my characters. But others, Hunter specifically, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. Priest, good luck. Have fun. I'm sure as heck happy that on my Warrior, my Demon Hunter, and my Death Knight that I will have fantastic looking mounts. That's something that I am personally going to be working towards as soon as 7.2 goes live.
Well, the priest one is just a giant owl. I think my personal favorite is the monk and the Death Knight. Those are my two personal favorites.
See, my Death Knight Grimtar, I use, the Shadow Council Legion set for his transmog. That Death Knight mount, you couldn't ask for a better Death Knight mount to go with that. And I finally get to retire that big-ass green Raven mount from Tanan. I'll finally get to retire that come 7.2. So that has me excited. I'll tell you that much right now. Honest opinion on that. Looking forward to it. And then we have 7.3 announced, which is perhaps the biggest, almost expansion-like announcement from BlizzCon. We're finally going to Argus. Homeworld of the Draenei.
Yeah, Homeworld of Draenei. I honestly haven't read a whole lot up on this one, so I'm going to let you have at it.
Well, I cannot wait to finally get to Argus and see the planet of the Draenei, to see Kil'jaeden's palace. That's been described before and hinted at, all that good stuff. I was somewhat disappointed that Argus won't have its own expansion, but I can understand their reasoning that, Burning Legion burnout would become an issue. And the fact that they want to conclude that storyline, this expansion. There's a lot of criticism about Orc burnout after Siege of Orgrimmar, Mists of Pandaria, and Warlords of Draenor. So I agree. I sit here and say, hey, I'd like an Argus expansion, but an Argus expansion right after the Legion expansion, that'd get old, killing demons all the time. So there we have it. 7.2, Tomb of Sargeras, flying in Broken Isles, and then 7.3, Argus.
They have added some other stuff into it, like Brawlers Guild Season 3 and some other stuff.
Well, I mean, I know everybody loves Brawlers Guild. I mean, I love it so much that it's like I spaced it out to where the last Brawlers Guild that I did was in 2014, I want to say. So I've been waiting for this to finally move on to I think it's like the 8th rank or whatever. No one really cares about Brawlers Guild. There is some PvP, in all seriousness, there is some PvP stuff that's coming out. But we'll get to that. But as far as Brawlers Guild, the one or two of you that are listening to the show right now that love Brawlers Guild, enjoy. Now, Also announced at BlizzCon is what I was hinting to. PvP Brawls. Going to be a gimmicky week-to-week variant of random battlegrounds, which should add some much-needed variety to the PvP scene. I mean, Lord knows we've been asking for new instances long enough. If you love Hearthstone Tavern Brawls and Heroes of the Storm Brawls, this variant's obviously going to be your cup of tea.
So you know the devs were sitting around in their round table, drinking on their coffee, and like, what can we do for these PvP brawls that's gonna make everybody mad? We had that one giant nerd in the back corner. He stands up and he goes, "We should give it a all healer BG because everybody likes all healer BGs and everybody always complains there's no healers in BGs. So the first one out, we should make it an all healer BG."
Only in our darkest nightmares will that become a reality, partner. All right, moving on to the final announcement, I think we should cover here from BlizzCon, dailies on the Broken Shore. Now, I have long been a defender of the dailies, okay? Did I do every single one in Mists of Pandaria? No. I mean, eventually I got to them, but I was one of the players that kind of sat back and took one faction at a time, and I think the problem came in with everybody feeling that they had to do all the dailies at once. I think world quests have been a viable solution to them, but I still feel like Blizzard overcompensated after Pandaria. So I'm happy to see they're adding a new hub for 7.2 around the Tomb of Sargeras. I think this is the first daily hub that we have had since Mists of Pandaria, the very end of Mists of Pandaria. Now, before we get your take, Foxy Heals, because everybody is waiting for that. They get my take and then they say, okay, now what's Foxy going to say? I can't wait. Before we get your take, build up the suspension here. First, I want to get your thoughts on dailies. You played in Pandaria. What was your take on dailies and what's your take on them now?
I was like you. I did the dailies for the rep, and I only did the ones that I was working on at that specific time, and I did them one by one. And after a while, it got really grindy. There was that wake up in the morning feeling where, geez, I got to go do my dailies. If I don't do my dailies, I'm going to be behind, and I'm going to have to try and catch up. How am I going to catch up? So it was really grindy. Now it's not too bad now. It's kind of evened itself out a little bit, I guess you could say.
And let me be clear, I had to take time off in between the dailies. Wrath of the Lich King, I think, was the perfect template for what dailies should be and how they should work in game. And I would go do my ice crown. I was just telling Chuck the other night, we were leveling through Grizzly Hills with the Death Knight and the Monk. And I said, man, I used to come here in high school almost every evening and I'd do my Grizzly Hills dailies. I'd do my ice crown dailies. I'd get those done and then I was good to go. And I could do a couple dungeons log for the night. That's how dailies should be. Mists of Pandaria, by no means, in my opinion, was it a shining example, and we should go back to that. So I want to clear that up. Don't think that Mists of Pandaria was the answer, but I do feel that Blizzard overreacted. So it'll be good to see with World Quests some additional quest lines coming in for the Broken Isles. I like the direction that the game is headed in that regard. Overall, I was excited to hear about the plans for Legion heading forward. It's great to see Blizzard has a plan this expansion and is communicating it with the players. I had my doubts, and I said, I don't do third chances. This was Blizzard's second chance at me. Warlords was the first expansion I really felt was an abysmal failure. Uh, Towards the end, I really had no desire to continue playing, but I continued on for the guild. I have no doubt now that if they execute these patches well, Legion will continue its march to surpass Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, Warlords of Draenor, all of them, as the best expansion since Wrath.
Well, it's already surpassed Warlords. I mean, let's just go ahead and write that one down in the book. And I'll agree with you. That is the direction that they're heading right now. It looks like they've seen their mistakes and they're on the right path to fixing the mistakes, and they're listening now, which is always a plus. I'm excited to see what else they have in store for Legion. I think it's going to be good. If it's anything like it has been so far, this will probably be one of the better expansions since Wrath. Uh, Maybe even close to Wrath. So, uh, thumbs up for Blizzard, and I hope they keep doing what they're doing and listening. So,
As do we all. All true fans of the game want to see Blizzard continue to take the game in the right direction. And that will do it for episode 9 of the Chong Show with Foxyheals. As always, thanks to all our listeners, past, present, and future, to your continued support. And until next time, we press on.
thanks for listening, everybody.
Run away here with me. Lost souls in revelry. Running wild and running free. Just two kids, you and me. And I say, hey, 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 living like we're renegades. Hey, 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 living like we're renegades.
Welcome, Renegades, Rebels, and Outlaws, to the Chong Show with Foxyheals, episode 9 here. The holiday episode here at the very end of the year. 1 year since we had our first episode. Let me be the first to say happy holidays, everybody. And it should be a fantastic show here today. We're going to be covering the return to Karazhan, our thoughts on Nostalrius, finally going to get around to giving our opinions on that. And of course, all the BlizzCon news. The best take, the only take you should concern yourself with when it comes to WoW media, right here on the Chong Show with Foxyheals. So let's get started here. Return to Karazhan. We promised that we would cover it, and here's my take on it. I'll go ahead and start off here. You know, I've enjoyed the patch so far. I haven't had the time to actually progress through the Karazhan dungeon, but from what I've heard and seen, the 5-man mini raid is a fantastic and nostalgic way to go back and see that content or relive that content. You know, Foxy and I were out in Karazhan just the other night, and let me tell you, everybody, it was great to see one of the most legendary and iconic locations in the game bustling with life once again. There were Horde and Alliance players everywhere. They were tearing it up below at the entrance. It was pretty good time to be at Karazhan, although we made sure we kept our distance up in the air, not to land and get involved in that.
Really can't wait to get in there and get it done and say we've done it. Get a chance at that dragon, that mount. Looking forward to it, and it's I enjoyed myself while we're sitting there watching everybody go at it the other night. It was fun to see that area busy again. Usually I fly through there on the weekly mount run, and it's there's no one there except the occasional other raid grinder. It's good to see it again. Busy again. Makes it hard to get in there and do your weekly stuff, but whatever. It's fun. Makes it fun.
And we were out there scoping out a location for the playoffs. It was originally scheduled to be Karazhan, but now the playoffs have been moved, and by this time they will have taken place already, to Zul'Gurub. So we thought about Karazhan. We saw all the people there. We knew that the Horde were going to get involved, so we just decided, you know what, better to have it next door at Zul'Gurub. So return to Karazhan. epic patch so far. As Foxy said, I'm looking forward to getting the guild involved in Karazhan, finally getting around to running that at some point here. Let's move on to Nostalrius. Now, for those of you who may not know, Nostalrius is a vanilla server that was started by about 3 people. The team grew to about 30 people. And basically, it was a legit, authentic vanilla server with all the bells and whistles and all the glitches and all the positives and negatives of it. It was a vanilla server. And it became pretty popular for a private server. It got up to, I think they had 900,000 accounts, 800,000 accounts, 100,000 that were active, and the most they had on at one single time, 13,000 players. Now keep in mind the limit for any WoW server is about 3,000. So 10,000 more than that at one night. That was their record. Unbelievable. And I think we've been silent on this issue long enough. You know, at first I thought it was a tad over the line as far as being a flash in the pan, a fad. So it really wasn't worth discussing on the show. That was my opinion. I wanted to see it'll probably pass. Sure enough, Blizzard shut it down. But now they're bringing it back. So here's my take. Blizzard is a multi-billion-dollar company. They have to ensure that profits stay up for future expansions. Now, focusing any amount of resources on